On this episode of ResiWeek, Google partners with ADT and CES goes virtual. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 235, Google Home Security.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Peerless AV, the official outdoor display provider of Daytona International Speedway.
Hey, welcome to this episode of ResiWeek, your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I'm pleased to be joined by three of my closest friends. First, we have Katie McGregor Bennett. She is the president of KMB Communications. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I almost said KMB Comms, and I'm like, yeah. It's technically a holiday here. We're gonna go with that.
That's totally your excuse. It's all good.
Yeah, totally the excuse. How are you?
I'm doing great. Not on holiday, but
You should take more holidays.
Thank you. I think I will. I'm going to do that next week. Thank you. Appreciate
Here to help.
Yep.
Then we've got Joe Whitaker. He is the CEO of Thoughtful Integrations. How you doing, bud?
Doing good. Glad to be back in the show with you guys. It keeps my life interesting.
Just me, or like the show in general?
And you guys. I mean, come on. It's always a team effort.
It's the family. It's what happens.
That's right.
Last but not least, we've got Timothy Albright. He is the founder of AVNation. How are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you, sir?
I am doing fantastic. I got some stuff done today. Going to get some stuff done this afternoon on a holiday because that's how we roll. But because it's only a holiday in Canada and not in the U.S., there was some fairly large news that came out earlier today. This is coming to us from CE Pro, as well as some interesting anecdotes from Yahoo Finance. ADT and Google have announced a smart home security partnership. Alphabet, who is the parent company of Google, has made a $450 million investment into ADT, and ADT and Google will now offer a bunch of new smart home security technologies for integrators and DIY. What this is going to do is create a partnership and bring together Nest hardware and their services that are powered by Google's machine learning, couple that with ADT's installation service and professional monitoring to create a more helpful smart home and integrated experience for customers across the U.S. What you might find more than just slightly interesting about this is this was announced just a little while ago. ADT stock price is up 60% already today. Additionally, Alarm.com has plunged as much as 20% today. So this is twofold. This is a huge thing from both our channel and products and services, but it's also massive from a stock situation. Katie, I want to start with you on this. This kind of came out of left field for me. Last I had heard, and all the research I've seen, was that the Nest security solution was going to be standalone. They weren't looking for an installation arm. It was going to be DIY and DIY only. I really want to have a conversation with our friend Andrew over at Nest to get a little bit more info on this. But is this something that I view it as something that's going to dramatically change the business model of anybody who's selling security in general, let alone if you're an ADT partner or if you're an Alarm.com partner or your local monitoring center partner? What do you see this doing as this gets fleshed out down the road?
Yeah, I mean, so this is just coming across my desk as well. Haven't had a lot of time to look into it or ask my network sort of for their take on it. But I think I think two things is that this quite likely, though I have no idea when the talks around this originated, but I suspect that this boys and girls may be the first of the major company announcements post-COVID, or we're not out of it yet, but that have occurred as a result of COVID and where consumer interests lie. We know on the KMB comm side, we know that surveillance content, anything to do with surveillance and security cameras, has gone through the charts as far as just organic engagement on content that's speaking to those. We know that sales on the integration side are through the roof. So this category is it's exploded over the last few months anyways. I think that from an integration community perspective, this opens it up quite a bit. I think it also may create a bit of a limiting factor as well as for those who don't already have a relationship with this sort of empire, if you will. You know, it's kind of like, I suspect it may be a little bit more challenging now to get in if you're not already partially there. I have no idea how restrictive that is, but I think that it's really interesting, just categorically speaking, that this, I think it points to a lot of opportunity. And I think it also, where the integration community at large is going to be spending more time and resources clearly in security. It's curious and concerning that this is, the Google side of it. And, what else is connected to this? And I know that I know the industry and the community is going to rise up against that. Joe, I'd love definitely to hear your thoughts on that too, just, from the business side of it. So that's just kind of my quick take.
Very good. Joey, given, what Katie just said, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you run the security side of your business kind of the way I run mine, where, we do a lot of CCTV and things like that, but alarms are kind of that add-on. If somebody really wants it, we'll do it. But at least I'm not out, flagging flyers, ADT style of, sending a couple grunts out to go flag 400 doors and try and get, a 3-year contract with 0 down and $40 a month, as much as that can be a very good business model. When you see this and looking at your business and the way you're running your business right now, is this something that gives you pause to say, yeah, we're going to have a really hard time competing against anyone on alarms if ADT and Nest have what will most likely be a very cost-effective and simple solution?
Well, I don't know if it's a drop in the bucket situation. Obviously we do security. We have a security license, all that kind of thing. And those are the kind of the questions that we answered for ourselves when we hopped on like the Vivint Pro Partner Program, which is, I don't even know what that looks like right now. Through all the COVID stuff, but while Katie was talking and you were talking, I was scratching down notes and kind of thought back kind of in a historical manner, good 10 years, right? So you always had ADT, Tyco as the heavy hitters. Doesn't matter where in the US you are. Those two were your heavy hitters. And then you had companies like Vivint come in, which I always consider it Vivint /2 gig, same thing, different model. Yep. But then you got to look at all those trends. And that's kind of the scary part. Is you're like Amazon. Okay, you own Ring. You do some security. Where are you at? Where are you at in this? If we're going to break this down, take the two big boys in the room, take the Amazon, good old Bezos and them, and then take the Google side and say, okay, if we're going to break this down and go all the way down into integrator partnerships or whatever, what is this going to look like for me, in the back end? You're going to offer a product what can be DIY and be integrator specific, so to speak. Where is that going to play when you've got other people like, Snap and C4 jumping into the Claire thing with the nice touch panel for their new security platform? What does this look like for us right now? Because now you got it cut into 3 spots where I think this is scary for everyone, because who's going to make money? The integrator, the real true security professional that might offer, a Vivint, a 2 gig, an ADT, or, your good old classical Honeywell stuff. What are we going to look like on the back end as a business model when the big popular one, it's going to be the Google ADT thing that launches, and I can either install it myself or have a pro install it? Where does that leave us in the security mix? I honestly think an entire reevaluation. And this ADT thing, the biggest part of this whole thing is, reading this article, listening to you guys, is the one thing that everyone forgets. Why did the Nest security thing fail? And why did the Amazon Ring thing not really take off? Because each individual state has their own regulations on what can be installed, by who, when, where, and what can actually be monitored to call fire department, ambulance, medical, all of that. that missing component. Well, how does Google fix that? Invest a ton of money in ADT and then maybe snaps them up somewhere down the road. Because that's the thing that everybody was missing. We operate in more than one state. Here in St. Louis, it's wild, wild west security. Doesn't matter. But you go to Texas and you don't have a security license, you stick a camera outside a house, that could be up to a $10,000 fine. Now imagine Amazon and Google trying to deal with that with their security platforms. ADT fixes a problem, weighs in heavy on their money, and they will get to introduce some new products and all their algorithms in the back end. So yeah, it for guys like us, yeah, I mean, I might not even do security anymore. I mean, it's that serious of a big deal.
Wow, that's very interesting. Tim, I'm getting some additional info, which I want to pick your brain on. Mm-hmm. One of the really interesting sides of this, and I feel like you and I have talked a couple of times about how home security and the alarm industry has been ripe for significant disruption. To Joe's point, Ring came out with their system, Nest came out with their system. It got a lot of fanfare right off the bat, but I've never seen a single one of those systems installed anywhere. No. Now, I know clients that have gone out and bought them, but we've never seen them, we've never serviced them, we've never touched them. One of the things that Bloomberg is reporting in this is that ADT will begin distributing Google's Nest Home products exclusively, and that the distribution network is key for Google to now have ADT exclusively distributing this. Now, again, we know what exclusive distribution means. Literally nothing. It's exclusive until somebody else joins the party. But if you start talking about 20,000 ADT employees with more than 6 million customers, and they do add, obviously, new customers all the time. They have a massive list of legacy customers who, in all honesty, there'll be a large portion of them that are still on that 3G sunset where they need to upgrade their systems. What does this do? What is this the major shakeup that the alarm industry has been, dare I say, needing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is Joe put it right on the head, and this not only solves an issue that Amazon had, right, and Nest had, but it also solves the problem that ADT has, and that is, right now they have legacy customers that trying to get them along and trying to get the technology in the back end to evolve. Google has that, right? Google has the algorithms. In addition to that, they've both committed, the article said $150 million each. So $300 million is going to go into R&D in this new venture. Well, I mean, that's a lot of money for evolving and creating the next generation of security and the next generation of connectivity for those security systems. So yeah, this is the beginning of a brand new era for the security sector. And I think that both Katie and Joe is right. None of us know what this will do to the dealers, at least not the AV dealers. Security folks, most likely they'll jump on and kind of ride this out and see where it goes. But for the AV folks, it almost looks like Google has done an end around, and it may not end well for those folks who depend on security systems for revenue.
Yeah, very much so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's change topics for a moment. This came out late last week. CTA cites the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic to turn CES 2021 into a virtual event. I can't say that I'm shocked by this, but I'm also surprised by this. This was not what I expected to see with CES. I expected them to still run and have a major virtual component. Joe, I want to start with you on this. From the integrator side, where CES has its moments where it's very, very effective for our community, it's still a huge tech show, but there is so much consumer tech that's there as well. It's not something that I've ever made a huge push to attend because of that. When you see them going completely virtual, obviously Infocom was virtual. CEDIA Expo in September is going to be virtual. ISE will likely have some portion virtual, just reading tea leaves. None of that has been announced yet, but CES is like the show of shows. What does it mean to see CES saying, yeah, we're going to go virtual this year?
This is the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life. And here's why.
I'm glad you said it first.
There's a pandemic, just so we're clear.
Yes, there is a pandemic. So on that standpoint, of course, it makes sense. Of course, it's a responsible thing to do when we don't know what Q4 is going to look like at all as far as a pandemic. And then you've got this huge show that tail ends in the middle of what would be, the winter in the middle of the United States, good old beginning of January is what it is. So you have all these components in it that says, okay, this is a smart, responsible idea. However, you look at some of the other trends, you look at Infocom, you look at CEDIA Expo, and you're even worried about that in how do we normally have 20,000 attendees with 1,000 manufacturers, and how do we cater that into a virtual experience? So now multiply that by 100, and now you have CES. I mean, I haven't been to CES since like 12 or 13. I was doing a headphone gig consultation thing, and that was the last time I was there. And even looking at it then, how can you take something that big and spread out with your typical what the attendees look like and how many manufacturers there are insane, and how do you convert that to a virtual platform? I mean, it's a great place originally to, you want to find an iPhone case, that's the place to go. They got a whole floor for that. You want to find a crappy Bluetooth speaker made by some company that nobody's ever heard of, great place to find it. But then you've got your Klipsches, and you got your all of those big brands like Sony that really pull out all the stops. How are you going to do something that massive of a scale virtually? Just me being honest, I don't see how that is even possible. I mean, you're talking about a hosting platform that I bet you the government doesn't even have one that could, support that many people at one time. Have you seen a congressional thing virtual lately? I mean, those are horrible. Now, they've got all the money in the world, but you can't do it. Where do I think the power is going to be for CES? Same thing I think about CEDIA Expo. The power is going to be in the hands of the manufacturers. Whatever they pull off within the confines of the box they were given to present, that's going to be the key winning point. There's going to be, dude, you're right. I mean, it's CES. It's the biggest thing in electronics on the planet. How are you going to do that virtually? I wish them the best of luck. I will probably attend some of their stuff just to view it and, see how it turns out. But that's scary. That I don't know what that revenue loss looks like for them either on the business side. That is going to be just every association's feeling it, but they're going to probably feel it the worst. Yeah, astronomical. They're going to feel it.
Timmy, this is. I had initially kind of shock with this because I did not expect this to happen. And then I had a fair amount of sadness because this was supposed to be the year that we were going to go and cover CES. And I feel like they did it just out of spite for us.
They did it good because they realized you were going to finally go to it.
I know, they're like, nope, we're done. It's out.
Not the Canadian.
Finito. When you watch this and hear what Joe's saying, and you and I've had multiple conversations about virtual events. We've held our own. Mm-hmm. There is a lot that is lost in a virtual event. You can do them very well. You can have some fantastic, panels and sessions and all that other stuff, but it just doesn't compare. It's not the same thing. There's no way to virtually recreate that. Is this, obviously they have to do it, but is this something where you feel they're going into this going, yep, this is going to be kind of crappy?
Well, number one, they don't have to, right? Nobody has to do these events, and I was honestly shocked about this because quite frankly, the day before I was talking with someone else, and we've all kind of watched CES as kind of the bellwether for the first quarter, maybe in the second quarter of next year. And I had been told that, CTA was, they were going to, make bigger aisles and you do some social distancing stuff, but they were going to have a show. In fact, I was on a show with David Danto, the guy that David Danto who works for Poly. He hosts a UC show for us called Connected, and we had somebody on from the CTA about a month ago, and he's like, "We're having this show," and then to kind of just kind of drop it, the last week of July. Now, I want to point something out here. Well, the last week of July, Infocom got crap for canceling, the end of March. And granted, that was the start of this, right? Mm-hmm. That was the first part of COVID, for at least here in the States. This is a full 5-6 months ahead of time. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the next 6 months. Nobody. Right? There are 4 different companies that are working on a vaccine right now. It may come to pass. We may be able to, or we all may be stuck here within the confines. Well, the 3 of us confines of the States, and you still can't get here in January. Who knows? Right? So I personally think that this was a little bit premature. I think that it was a bit early to say, to kind of throw up the white flag and say, we give up. We're going virtual. Now, all of that to say, they don't have to, right? They could just say, we're going to skip 2021 and we'll be back in 2022 because
hold on.
Yeah.
Can CES do that?
Sure.
Like I know they can, but it's CES.
Yeah.
As Katie's wringing her fist, knowing that I have nothing to market. No. We have to market something. Can they actually, I feel like this show is so big, like DSC, they've essentially, they keep posting it down, but they're not going to have a show this year.
Most likely. That's
not likely going to dramatically affect any of the exhibitors or the attendees.
Mm-hmm.
CES, there are hundreds of companies that stake their business on what they can achieve out of CES.
And they adjust their product cycles to make sure that they can hit 1st of January, 1st of February. Absolutely. Yep. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Joe's right. The power is going to be in not only the organization of CTA, a company that owns CES, but also the partnerships they create with the manufacturers. If the manufacturers have something to show, if the manufacturers have something to talk about that's exciting, that's new, that's innovative, you're not just going to show off some dumb USB fan or something, then yes, absolutely. They should, right? But it is going to be a partnership between the power of the manufacturer and the organization to pull this off.
Very good. Katie, let's chat for a second, because you obviously support a lot of manufacturers from a marketing standpoint. Is there an effective way to market to consumers virtually, especially on a scale this size? Is this something like you were part of the team that helped pull off the Atlas IED launch from last week that turned out really well, but it was also its own event. If that had been coupled with Infocom, it still would have been a cool event, but I don't know if the impact would have been there because of all the competing noise.
Right.
It's hard enough on a CES show floor to draw attention, which is why there's people in the aisles trying to pull you into booths. But virtually, digitally, is the support there? Can you get a message across effectively?
That therein lies the challenge. And it's a good thing that I put myself on mute when you guys were talking. There was so much that I wanted to do. There's so much I wanted. No. There's there's a lot of things going on, and I think just to kind of quickly catch up, as I think there's a timeline here, and CES just exponentially is so much larger an event than our trade events. I mean, just massive scale. You couldn't pull off a CES in anything less than 6 months planning. And right now there's so much uncertainty just from a travel perspective of what countries are going to be able to travel, just legally there. Then you also have the corporate liability standpoint. And in the US, that's a much bigger situation, I think, than anywhere else globally. We're a litigious society here in the US. Companies have to take into consideration if they ask people to travel and they become sick, ill, or die, that liability falls to the employer. Theoretically, I'm sure there's a gray area in there, but this is what companies are really struggling with: is as an employer, is this the time to ask your employees to travel, let alone to a trade show? Is that essential? No. a trade show is not essential to, in the bigger scheme of things. Now, I'm not talking as CEO of KB Communications, who relies heavily on trade shows. Let me be very clear on this. But, I think there's just sort of the financial structure of trade shows. So it makes very clear sense. And, maybe I was one of the few in the room, but I was waiting for the announcement to be made and watching the calendar. Wow. Because we were just getting into that range where insurance policies start to kick in. So, and I would expect that if that's the case, and CES has a longer window on that insurance than our regional ones do, because they're smaller in scale. And 182,000 attendees last year. And this, I just reread this stat, and I think it's important for us to understand this. So if last year in 2018, 175,000 attendees, of which 68,000 of those attendees were exhibitor attendees. So to support 4,500 exhibiting companies, 68,000 bodies are in Las Vegas. That starts, and that's hotel rooms, that's foods, that's cabs, that's right. So that's a number that we don't really ever get deep into. And I was writing that mute button hard because it was like, shit, guys, we really do kind of have to talk. Just, when you start breaking down those numbers. Okay, now that's topic aside. You know me, I move fast. Now just get into the product side of it. And, you guys were talking about the USB fans and those kinds of things. I mean, CES really, it is a global launch point for consumer technology. On the industry perspective, ISE has become the global launch point for professional and residential technology. Yep. ISE is really the one that matters the most to us. And a lot of those products that show first at CES, that's the consumer version. We then get to see the pro version 6, 8, 9, 10, 12 months later, we actually see that product come to life. So I think for us, while it's a huge shock, I think it's more of just a matter of looking at what that show and what that time frame has represented to us as an industry, and how do we rejigger accordingly. Now, Matt, to your original question, can you do this effectively as a manufacturer? Hell no. Hell no. These virtual platforms so far are not providing manufacturers a great platform. What Atlas IED did with you guys on the AVNation side last week was phenomenal, and it got a lot of attention. It's because they were one brand, 1 week, total isolation from any other event. It was beautifully orchestrated. Had they done that at InfoComm, they still would have they would have gotten the attention, but it wouldn't have stood out as a singular event that the industry couldn't miss that one, on that one day for that 30-minute time frame. There's just too much noise around a trade show. So then you have to kind of rely on the virtual platform to pick up that capability. And I'm sorry, but InfoComm was Freeman. We're moving on. CD Expo is going to be Convey. Convey looks, and the platform that it's on looks to be pretty cool. If you're familiar with Outdoor Retailer, massive show for the outdoor retail community. They ran it. It looks pretty good. But honestly, are you really going to walk into a virtual environment, lean your little mouse in and go, ooh, I want to go into the exhibit hall to go see what Sony is showing today? No, you're going to pick up the phone. Joe, you're going to call Jason Savage. Right?
Exactly what I do.
So, these virtual, it's great that they're there and we have to have something. But guys, gals, this is just not the year that any of us are going to be super compelled by what a manufacturer can introduce and showcase on these platforms. Makes it hard for all of us to really make some noise, but I don't think it's going to be done on these virtual trade show platforms right now.
Real quickly, one. Go ahead, Joe. I got one small correction from Mr. Scott.
I was going to go ahead.
No, you go first.
Oh, okay. Because there's a note that I've repeated over and over on one of my pieces of paper, and that's what I keep saying is the era of the big show is for the most part gone. And it's for the things that, like the Atlas IED thing, that have now been defined is by private one-off virtual events. You're allowed to break calendars, which means you can do it around Memorial Day, the weekend after. You have so much more flexibility. But then there's the ability for the one-on-one time for fireside chats on very specific product information, test cycles, whatever the case may be. These are all things you actually can't do at the big show. And it's proving, like the Atlas IED thing, brilliant, worked great. Would it have worked at InfoComm? Sure, but not the way that it actually worked. That was an amazing proving point to me because it was the first one done like that.
Well, let me ask any of you a question. Well, I will completely concede that a standalone event is fantastic and very easy to deal with, and you can get a lot of focused attention, and you can also find some time in your day to go do it. the benefit to me of the large shows is that I'm never going to see every booth. That's never going to happen. But I can go see my, 5 or 10 or 20 main companies that I need to deal with. I can go knock that out in a day or 2 days. What I'm concerned with happening, and we saw it right when this started, everyone and their brother had a virtual thing, a webinar, a training class, something. And as a business owner, it's really hard to work and manage your business and also find even 2 hours every week to go see this and go see that and go manage that, even from just managing your email as far as who's doing what event when. Is that not the concern?
I don't know
Yes,
if it's... Go, Joe.
No, you go.
Waited forever,
See?
and then you came in at the same time.
See, isn't that the Zoom thing? No, you go. No, you go. No,
Katie, you go. You go.
No, Joe, go. Oh, I think
Is my mic on?
Yeah,
Can you see me?
Is this thing working? No, I think that's. Thank you, Tim. You can hear us. That's good to know since we're now 45 minutes into recording. I think that's. That is the challenge. And I think that live events dictate how you're going to spend those days, assuming that you travel to them. There's sort of a rhythm to that day. Even if you don't get up at 8 o'clock and have breakfast every day in your normal professional life, I do. I just know there are others that don't do that. Trade show days, you tend to get up early. Why? Because you know that your people are downstairs having breakfast and it might be kind of cool to bump into them, and so there's sort of like that you get up and you go and you do because you have committed to being there in person in some capacity. If you don't get up early, you're going to hit the networking stuff at night. You're going to be out all night. We've all heard those stories. You cannot replace the networking and that in-person time with a virtual anything. I challenge the royal you out there. Find a networking event that will rival the in-person. I know we're trying them, but it's just not the same. I've loved hanging out with you guys here on Zoom for 4 months, but I really honestly cannot wait until I get to see you. I want to hug you. And that's the live event will never replace that. I think we've got a lot of evolution yet to do. They're getting better, but
well, hold on. Let me get ready to walk into the trade show. So I think this is not going to work, even for our personalization. Yes, you want to come in, you want to give me a hug, but that's not going to happen for another year or so. It's just not. And the thing that we're realizing is, I know what you guys in marketing are seeing, is that there's a power now to having a live event, whether it be a keynote, education, product announcement, launch, whatever, that is repeatable. It's got a playback to it. You go to most things at Expo in the past, and Sony unveils some big, cool OLED or whatever the case may be, and you were there at that moment, but when you get back to the office, it's not recorded, it's done. It's in your head. There's no chance of review, anything like that. The magic in the marketing and all of that for me, and especially on the education side, is repeatable. I might catch like the first 10 minutes of something Matt or you or Tim does, and then all of a sudden I've got a company emergency. I got to drop off. I got to get out of here. But guess what? 7 o'clock that night, I get to finish the entire thing, write down my questions, and email you guys, or call you, or text you, or whatever the case may be. I think virtual has some really strong points never available to us in any Infocom Expo CES style, to the same point that I know for a fact that CD Expo this year, some of the manufacturers are going to have Zoom as a sidecar, and you got a dealer, an integrator really interested in this widget, whatever the case may be. You hop on with one of their guys on a side Zoom call. You actually get to play with the dashboard of the product, get a view of it, the whole nine. That's something you never were able to do at Expo. So I see a lot of upsides, and the fact that everybody's going to be scared to do the hugs and which of course I miss. I miss seeing all you guys, and having a drink and having fun and learning stuff. But it's just not ready. The paranoia is going to stop that from being a legitimate thing for at least 18 months.
Well, yeah, and you look at the fact that Google just told their folks that they don't have to come back until July of next year. Real quickly, ISE is working on a hybrid event. Mr. Blackman has said that in a number of interviews with like Craig McCormick and other publications. So they are at least working and looking at something.
Yeah.
And I was so looking forward to Barcelona. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we ain't none of us. Well, Matt might be able to go to Barcelona, but the rest of us,
No, we're out. We're stuck.
big dumb Americans.
Maybe I'll take Fiona. It'll be fun.
Yeah, well, and just American companies are not exhibiting, so there's
Exactly.
Yep, that's already.
Well, and that's another thing, Katie, is you've got folks that are there are several multinationals, right? You've got the big ones, the big one, even ones that are based in the U.S. They have European counterparts and stuff like that, but there's a big chunk of those that are U.S. only, and they won't be allowed.
Yeah. It'll be a very 2020 was weird enough. 2021 is going to be very entertaining, especially.
And here I kept saying, "Come on, 2021." I'm like, let's skip
you're the
to
one that did it.
25. Let's skip to 25.
No, because then I'll be 40 and that'll hurt.
Then
It doesn't hurt. Good grief.
That's because
Shark bears and everything else.
All right, let's wrap it there. I wonder if Craig will actually ever hear this because he doesn't really pay attention to residential stuff.
Well, he also doesn't pay attention to the Yankees either. But what's your point?
No, but I was going to razz him over, PEDs and things like that don't happen with monster home run hitting gentlemen that are 6'7", who swept the Red Sox for Craig if he's watching. But let's wrap it there, and I'll just harass Craig over Twitter. Thank you all for joining us and chatting today. Katie, if people want to connect with you, learn more about KMB Communications, where can they do that?
Yep. We're kmbcommunications.com on the web. If you want to find me, I'm Katie McGregor, KatyemcGregor. That's on Twitter, or KMB_com on Twitter as well for the company.
Excellent. Thank you so much. She's also got a couple podcasts that she's hosting as well. So check those out too.
I do. AV Trade Talk and Connecting Tech and Design. Yep.
Are you doing the foodie one too? Is that you?
Yeah, foodie one. Yeah. So AV Foodies, AV Bites. Yeah. No, that's Vegeta, UGA, and I. And yeah, we're actually we're booking up through the year. Yeah. So
fun times. Mr. Whitaker, thank you, sir. If people want to connect with you, learn more about Thoughtful Integrations, where can they do that?
They can always email me, Joe at Thoughtful Integrations. Find us on all the social things at Thoughtful Integrations. I will be on Katie's Kitchen and Bath show this week, I believe. Am I correct, Katie?
Indeed. Design Uncut on Thursday.
Yes, with our good friend George Walter. And Tim, is this a good time to just drop a little sneaky?
Go right ahead.
Sneaky thing. So
for anybody that listens through the whole show, they'll get the little tidbit.
Well, these two guys, Matt and Tim, have welcomed me officially to the AVNation family, as our show will be converting in 2 weeks over to the AVNation platform. We will now be there with the what we're stats say is the #1 pro consumer-faced show in the U.S., and I am so excited about being with you guys.
We're excited about having you, as long as we get we settle on a name. That would be helpful.
Yeah, so if you're watching this, send Matt the names.
I told you what it was.
No, Sarah told us all 4 or 3 what it was. So
yeah,
that is true.
But I agreed with her, so it was fine.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, it was a stamp of approval.
And me and Tim disagreed, but we will have a name. So we can announce
wrong.
The show.
No, Sarah and I got this locked. It's cool. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Timothy, thank you, sir, for joining us. If people want to connect with you, read about your musings over the golf claps.
No, this is a really cool thing I got from our buddy at PTZ Optics. Paul, I did the President Summit with them, and I thought it was a cool idea. And it's a young lady on Etsy that makes all these different Zoom placards that you can, for folks that can't, anyhow, you can go follow me on the Twitters at TD Allbreak, because the Blues are playing sort of again.
Kind of. I gotta say, I actually watched a little bit of hockey last 2 weeks.
The last 30 seconds when they lost it. Yeah.
No, I didn't even see the Blues play, but man, none of them are good yet.
No.
Gosh, that's bad hockey.
It's kind of abysmal right now for hockey.
This is me saying it's
and
bad
baseball.
Hockey. Yeah. No, baseball's great. Yankees are killing it, man. My boy.
And so I got to give a shout out to what's his name that does that hockey show? Andy Strickland, who also does Fox Sports Midwest. Him and Soupy Jim Campbell name dropped our company on their radio show on Friday, which was kind of cool because you know we're big Blues fans. But then when I get text messages from like Pedigo and everybody else talking about those do not look like the championship Blues. Look, nobody's been playing, okay? Everybody looks, except for the Avalanche. Everybody looks bad right now, and the Avalanche looks like they're going to be the best in the world. So
give them time.
There's my
It
prediction.
was one game.
Yeah, but they looked good. Oh.
Yeah, I got nothing to add to that. I'm over here watching golf and baseball. All right. Thank you again for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and pretty much every other social platform. More importantly, please visit avnation.tv where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.